Hey folks, Ray from DCRainmaker.com here. Today we've got the Stalker drone. Now, this is a bit of an action camera focused drone, which means it's going to track you while you're doing sports. So it's a little different than something like a DJI Mavic or even the GoPro series Karma drone there, where that's kind of focused more on general cinematography. This is very much akin to the AirDog drone, where it's focused purely on sports action. The one difference though, when you compare to the Stalker to the AirDog, is that this actually has a mode to allow you to do that sort of cinematography, kind of basic capturing of scenes that may not be sports focused. So that's a bit of a change there. What I'm going to do is I'm going to walk you through sort of the remote control, how it works, and the drone itself. The drone actually folds up into this backpack right here. It's smaller than I expected, so one of the things I didn't, I looked online, I thought it was kind of big, but in reality it's actually pretty small. Not of course as small as the Mavic, that's definitely the smallest out there, but it certainly folds up smaller than a Phantom 4 would, or Phantom 3, that whole Phantom series. You can see this for comparison. This is my backpack, just a standard red backpack right there, and this is the Stalker one. This would actually fit inside that, no problem. So I could of course ignore the hard shell case, which does come with the drone, which is a nice touch, and I could stick that right in the bag. It does not come with the camera, so you got to put your own GoPro on there. You can see I put my GoPro Hero 5 Black on the front of that. And then I've got the controller here, which is going to go ahead and wirelessly tell the drone where I am. So this has a GPS receiver in it, and it's transmitting to the drone my location as well as my altimeter location, so it can track that. It can track up and down hills, for example. This is also fully waterproof. It's IP68 waterproof, which means if you're doing surfing or windsurfing or anything where you're trying to track yourself in the water, you're fine with that. And you can also turn off the altitude tracking in the water so that it's not going to be kind of doing these little fake jumps up and down if water were to kind of hit the sensor there. So with that, we're going to get started. What I'm going to do to take off is go and hold this button down. So here we are with the remote control itself. So we've got a bunch of buttons here. On the very front, we have this mode option, which we'll talk about as soon as we get in the air. We've got this button here to start it. And then we have buttons that control the up and down, so height, elevation, up and down. Here we control the drone going further away or closer to us. And then here we control left and right location in the sky. And I'll kind of explain that once we get up in the air. So I'm going to go ahead and hold this down to take off. There we go. Holding this protects it in case you don't start accidentally. It's now asking us to go ahead and confirm that the GoPro is recording. I've already done that. We can go ahead and double check real quick here. It is indeed recording down there, which is great. So there is no control of the GoPro from the remote control itself. GoPro hasn't opened up their API or their SDK to allow them to do that. So that's kind of one downside. You have to do it ahead of time. In this case, we're confirmed that's good. So I'm going to press that again. Press and hold. There we go. Now it's going to give us a countdown, and then about 3 seconds in, you'll see the motor spin up there. And then here we go. So at this point, it's up in the air. It's going to go to 10 meters high, and it's going to stay there for a second. And there we go. It's now automatically pointing the camera at us. So it's going to keep it pointed at us based on our location right there. We've got the battery indicator. Now it's going to stay there until I tell it what to do. In this case, I'm going to go into the mode menu, and you can see the different modes. I have compass mode, which basically keeps it positioned at the same location from me, so always to my left or to my right, and so on. Circle mode means it's going to circle around as I go somewhere, so it's kind of create that never-ending circle, which can be really cool in certain settings. At the same time, you also got to watch out about obstacles, which is one downside to this unit, is that it has no obstacle avoidance. The AirDog, for example, does have downward obstacle avoidance, but quite frankly, that's not really all that useful because you rarely hit something on the ground. You usually hit a tree, and that has nothing, neither of the units have that. Scenery mode is unique to the Stalker and something that AirDog's missing. This is the mode that allows you to go ahead and basically use it like a normal drone. So I can change the directions, go left and right, kind of wherever I want to go, and just explore like I would with a normal drone. It's a little basic to use, but it does work. Landing is obviously to land it. Back is to return back to home. And then hover here will keep it in one place while pointed at me. This is great if you want to do like a start of the video and you want the drone to stay there, and you want it to basically just follow you as you go off into the sunset. And then finally follow itself. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to turn into the circle mode just to kind of get things started. And I'm going to go ahead and start that. At this point you can see it's circling automatically around me. So I'm going to change the location. I'm going to go tell it to go further away. So if I do this, sorry, I'm trying to do this all one-handed here. I'm going to use this button right there. You can see now it's going to go further away. And then I'm going to also drop the altitude down because it'll look a little cooler. There we go, and you can see now it's dropping down. Now keep in mind, of course, we're in a parking lot across from a convention center. Quite frankly, it's the most boring place on earth to do drone videos, but that's where we are at the convention center. So obviously if I was outside somewhere really cool, it'd look a lot cooler, but we don't have that. We have just a parking lot. So I can speed this up by going left and right. So I can go right here, will now make the drone go faster around me. So you can see right there, it's moving pretty darn quick at this point. And then I can slow it down and go back the other direction by holding the left button. And eventually, so you can see it, there we go, it went back left, and I go like that, around and around. Now at this point, if I were to go ahead and start running, it would actually follow me. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna raise the altitude just a little bit. There we go, bring it up, just so I don't hit anything. And I'm gonna hand over the camera here, and I'm gonna kind of run a little bit. I'm gonna slow it down just a tiny bit, because that's getting a little crazy. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna run just basically down this stretch here to kind of show you as I run, what's gonna happen is it's gonna keep on following me in my location. So here we go, and I can change anything as I want. So you can see now it's starting to catch up to me. I'm gonna go up with the altitude a bit. So one thing to keep in mind here is that you do have to watch for obstacles. So if I were to keep on running, eventually I might hit some of these other pillars and stuff like that. Not pillars, buildings, sorry. But it is keeping pointed at me while it's attempting to circle around me, which is somewhat impressive. I'm sort of doing this weird loop here, and it's going just fine. So again, I can change the altitude if I want to. If I were to stop right where I am, it's going to continue circling around me. And of course, there are different modes. So now I'm going to go ahead and stop it, pause. I can hit that pause button at any point in time. It immediately stops it where I am. So if I thought I was going to hit something, I hit pause, I'm good to go. In this case, I'm going to change the mode.
Let's just pause things and talk a little bit about the obvious. You're not seeing any more drone footage. You may be wondering why, and I wish I had a really good explanation for that, but I don't. My GoPro Hero 5 Black, somewhere along the way, just shortly after takeoff there, after you saw it kind of point down at me, gave an SD card error. And one of the challenges with a stalker like the AirDog is that there's no way of knowing that because there's no control or control of the actual camera from the remote control itself. So in this case, I did not find that out until we finished filming this entire segment, some 20 plus minutes later, and I have nothing to show for it. Now we did actually do a bunch of filming before we did this whole video here, and so that I will include some of those segments so you can see that in some of the basic modes, but it's definitely not as cool as all the stuff that I filmed while I was running around, so for that I'm sorry. We did also try afterwards to do another shot with the Stalker drone, and in that case actually the first time that we tried to do it again, the GoPro also gave another SD card error, and the second time the Stalker drone itself then failed to take off due to a firmware update they had done the night before that caused some sort of mismatch and led to basically it not taking off at all. So we tried for another half an hour, no love at all, and at that point we both had to go, unfortunately.
Okay, now I've changed it into a follow mode. The follow mode is going to go ahead and basically follow my location wherever I am and stay in the same orientation in the sky. So as I run this way, it's going to stay basically facing me this direction. And if I were to turn, it'd kind of still stay in my same position relative to me. So to my east or to my west and so on. So as I do that now, I'm going to lower it a little bit here for you. You'll see it'll stay there no matter what I'm doing. And again, I'm having to keep in mind that there's like parked cars here, so I don't want to hit those. And as I cut in under it, it'll back out. It does seem a little bit slow in some areas to respond, being that close to it. Whereas if I were to kind of go a little bit further away, it's definitely a bit faster. Speaking of speed, the unit itself tops out at 80 kilometers an hour, which is 50 miles an hour roughly. So pretty fast, but one of the fastest on the market itself. A little bit faster than the AirDog, I think, on spec. Tiny bit faster than the Mavic or the DJI Phantom 4, but I think in the same ballpark as the Phantom 4 Pro. Still impressive stuff. Last but not least, I'm going to show you that scenery mode I mentioned. So in this mode, I can go ahead and select it, and it allows me to control the drone and go wherever I want. So as opposed to just looking at me now, I can change the orientation and say, it's going to fly past me. I can go ahead and I can go up if I want to. I can turn it left and right. Now it locks the gimbal there at about 20%, so I'm just kind of turning around for fun to show this to you. Still, it's somewhat primitive and somewhat basic, but it gets the job done. If I'm looking at something where I want to go ahead and basically show the scenery around me, this is great, and it's one of the challenges I have with the AirDog is that I couldn't do this sort of basic control if I wanted to do an establishing shot, for example. Really simple stuff. I don't necessarily need the power of something like the DJI series. I just want the simple shots, and this achieves exactly that in this particular mode. And that's aside from the other 4 sports modes that it has. I've only kind of gone through 2 of those modes here, but there are other modes that I talked about earlier. So with that, let's go ahead and get this thing back down on the ground. What I'm going to do now is go into the land mode. Yep, there we go. And now I've got 2 options. I can either choose land now, or I can choose return to home. So land now is going to pop it down right there, and then return to mode has 2 different options within that. One is to go ahead and return it back to my starting location, which is ideal if you're starting on a beach and over water, for example, while windsurfing or something like that. And the second is to return to me. So that's useful right now where I want it to come back to where I am. So I'm going to go ahead and choose return to home. And it's going to come on back here to the location it took off from, which is just right behind me. Now, one of the things that'll do is it'll automatically pull that camera up. So you saw the camera just pointing back up the drone, and that's to protect it from the ground. And so it has definitely a bit of a thud on the landing. It's not quite as graceful as some other drones, but it got the job done. It got down. The gimbal is still fine there, and the camera points the lens back up at the drone, so it protects that lens from any rocks, just like I have right here. So there you go, just a quick look at the Stalker drone. The unit itself is selling for $1,200 right now, but it'll soon be $1,500-ish bucks in a few months once it starts shipping. It is shipping here out in a few months. Overall, I'm pretty impressed with it from a kind of basic parking lot standpoint anyways. It'll be interesting to see how it works, once I get out to ski area or somewhere else where I've got a lot more space and get the speed up. When it comes to drones in general, one of the things to think about is what you want to use it for. If you're talking about sports action, then you really want something like the AirDog or potentially the Stalker. If you're looking at doing cinematography, then honestly things like DJI's drones are really a better bet because they're going to allow you much more flexibility in nailing those shots and controlling the camera and all that kind of stuff. But they're 2 totally different things. When I've done some of my testing with DJI drones and action sports modes autonomously, meaning I'm following myself without a second flyer, those drones generally suck. Like I've got plenty of videos showing my drones flying off, doing things I shouldn't be doing, including hitting trees, trying to track me. They're just not designed for that at this point in time. So with that, thanks for watching. Go and whack that like button down below, as well as the subscribe button. There's plenty more sports technology goodness on the way. Have a good one.